I've been saying for a long time now that even if you don't like the sequel trilogy, Daisy Ridley always has her finger on the pulse. She's given some insanely good takes in the last 2-3 years. She seems very in tune with the fandom, she's never blaming fans for how they feel about Star Wars, and if you remember the last time we spoke about her, she responded to a question about so-called toxic fans and said that while a lot of it takes place online, in person, every time she's at a convention, speaking one-on-one with fans, they've been nothing but wonderful to her, respectful, and she loves meeting them. And you know, she's unfortunately gotten a lot of disrespect and a lot of flack for the character of Rey, but she's not responsible for the writing of the sequel trilogy, and we can't point the finger at her for creative choices. I think she did a great job with what she was given. And so with that said, she's re-emerged, this time on French television, and she was asked to rank her top 5 Star Wars movies, and her choices really surprised fans. There are definitely some unsurprising picks, but at the same time, Star Wars fans were shocked. Let's take a look for ourselves, and we'll react to it. I also just want to say before we get started, I don't know if you've noticed, but she's growing her hair out again. She had short hair for a couple of years, and now she's growing it back out. Is she doing so to prepare for the Rey movie? I only say this because there was a report a couple of days ago that it might start filming this December. It does sound a bit premature, considering Daisy says she's still not seen a script, and we have heard from reliable sources production is only going to start in 2025. It could be sooner though, but the hair thing is just a small detail I noticed. Let's dive in.
But you're asking me to ablaze the internet with feeling.
She's already fully aware of the fact that no matter who you are, when you give your ranking for your favourite Star Wars movies, someone is going to have a problem with it. Someone is going to say you're wrong. I guess that's the beauty of the diversity of the Star Wars fandom. We all have different opinions of our favourite films. I'll give you my updated list later, but let's see what Daisy said.
About what I'm going to say. Force Awakens number 1, obviously. Strikes Back 2. Let's say Rogue One. Oh, I can't even remember what it's called. Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, and Attack of the Clones.
Okay, so let's start with the first one, The Force Awakens. I don't know why anyone is surprised. I saw this being posted on X.com, and I scrolled down to the comments, and fans were saying, how could she pick The Force Awakens? How could she pick a sequel trilogy film as her number 1? Do these people forget? Daisy is literally the star of the sequel trilogy. Of course she's going to put The Force Awakens, or one of them, as the first pick. I'm just surprised there wasn't The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker in there. But you know, if you've been paying attention to Daisy's words over the years, I think she really liked The Force Awakens. And while she loved being in the other two, I never get the impression she's as passionate about them. But you know, it's a respectable movie. It's not my favourite, not by far. But in my opinion, it's certainly the best of the 3 sequel movies. I know it played it safe. I know they were doing a rehash of A New Hope. You know, that's the argument you always hear. Now here's where I think she's absolutely spot on. So for number 2, she puts The Empire Strikes Back. Empire is my favourite Star Wars movie, hands down. Empire Strikes Back always gets my number 1 spot. For Daisy it's number 2, and I don't know if you noticed, but she called it Strikes Back. I've heard it being called Empire. I've never heard anyone call it that, but I think it's cool. So then her number 3 pick is Rogue One. Fantastic movie, certainly up there with one of the best Disney Star Wars projects. Number 4, Revenge of the Sith, one of my favourite movies from my childhood. I've seen it 100 times. And interestingly enough, number 5 is Attack of the Clones. Oh, see, I really respect her for this. For a long time in the fandom, if you just said you're a prequel fan, you were instantly the minority, and you were always put down, and people used to say, how dare you put Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith in your top 5 ranking? There was this real guttural anger for it in the early days of the internet. So it takes guts to say Attack of the Clones is one of your favourite movies, and I respect her for this. Attack of the Clones has tons of imperfections, but to me they make it one of the most perfect Star Wars movies. I'm a big fan of Temuera Morrison, you guys know this. Jango Fett, such a cool character. The fight with Dooku and Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end. Yoda, using a lightsaber for the first time on screen. I'm a huge fan to this day, and I think I've made more lore videos about Attack of the Clones than any other Star Wars prequel movie. So that's her ranking: Force Awakens, The Empire Strikes Back, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, and Attack of the Clones. Another fascinating fact, she didn't include A New Hope or Return of the Jedi in her top 5, and that's pretty rare. But I respect her for this, and Star Wars fans were certainly taken aback. If you look at some of these comments, you know what, fair list. Not gonna lie, this is peak ranking. Maybe swap Attack of the Clones and move them around with Return of the Jedi, but otherwise solid top 5. But you see, this person is missing the point. If you love a movie, just say you love it. Don't feel peer pressure to tell you what Star Wars movies you think you should like because everyone else likes them. Her picks are pretty good. I disagree, but I don't think the internet will freak out. And that was surprising because every time there's anything to do with Daisy, fans are always freaking out. So it's nice to see for something concerning Daisy Ridley, fans are on board and respecting what she said. This person says, so we're picking The Force Awakens over the frame-for-frame remake of A New Hope, but not the movie that started everything? Odd choice, but everyone has an opinion. Again, don't be surprised, she was in The Force Awakens. That was the movie that really put Daisy on the map. I mean, billions have seen her face because of The Force Awakens, the first movie of the sequel trilogy, so no surprise to me. So I feel like this is a really good opportunity to give you my updated 2024 Star Wars movie rankings. I do this every once in a while, I've done it with the live action shows time and again, but it's been a hot minute since I've given you my Star Wars movie rankings. And because I love so many of them so much, they often change. You know, there'll be times where some movies will be in very different positions to just a few months ago, but I think it's pretty consistent at the top end, but maybe you'll find it interesting. So, following after Daisy's lead, I'm going to give you my rankings. Number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. I've gone into depth, giving you the reasons I think this is one of the best sequels in cinema history. Right up there with Aliens, that's another movie I love. But The Empire Strikes Back, the best Star Wars movie, and quite literally, Star Wars upside down. It inverted so much of what we thought we knew in A New Hope, built on those characters, and one of the first sequels ever made where the bad guys win, a fantastic cliffhanger. Number 2, this is where it changes. So right now I'm going to say New Hope. Sometimes it's Revenge of the Sith, but right now, September 2024, it's A New Hope. Then Revenge of the Sith, and now we get into territory where fans tend to disagree. I'm going to give the next one to The Phantom Menace. Then Attack of the Clones. Then Return of the Jedi. Then I'm going to say Rogue One. Then The Force Awakens. Sorry Daisy. Then Solo: A Star Wars Story. Then The Last Jedi. And finally, The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not including the Clone Wars movie, that'd be in there somewhere probably in the middle of the list, but if we're just going for the live action stuff, that is my ranking. It will be interesting to see how it changes after the release of the Rey movie and The Mandalorian and Grogu. There might be some shifting round, who knows? But those are my rankings. What do you make of what Daisy said? And the question of the day, the challenge I put to you guys, what are your rankings? You're probably like me, sometimes they change, but for right now, the minute you're watching this video, what are your rankings? Share those down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, Star Wars Meg1 on Twitter, and may the Force be with you, always.